Long before telephones and modern toilets, a mighty demon king named Varvatos ruled, feared and revered for his power. He faced no challenges, none dared oppose him, fearing instant death. People bowed to his power, unaware that Varvatos loathed it. He craved defeat but found no worthy opponent. Unfortunately, no one ever challenged him. Tired of his life, Varvatos reincarnated millennia later as Ard Meteor, born to commoners Jack and his wife. On his 10th birthday, Ard's parents tried to make it special. After the party, Ard resumed his normal life, retaining his past life strength and magical abilities. He quickly mastered the era's magic, but was struggling to make friends in this peaceful era. Ard tried befriending his neighbors, but scared them away. He then approached 3 girls in town who also fled. Frustrated, Ard vented in the nearby forest. He met their family friend, Baron Olhyde, who advised him to be kind and respectful. Ard thanked him and tried again in the city, but his awkwardness persisted, and everyone rejected him. Dejected, Ardy returned to the forest to calm himself down. Suddenly, he heard a young girl screaming nearby. He activated his levitation spell and flew to find a white-haired girl fighting an ancient wolf. Meanwhile, Olhyde discusses his concerns about his daughter's closed-mindedness towards making new friends with Jack and his wife. Ardy witnessed a young girl take down the wolf. He approached her, retaining his composure, and introduced himself. To his surprise, he got his first response. The lady, who turned out to be Olhyde's daughter, Irina, refused to be his friend, knowing nothing about him. Ardy's goal was to befriend Irina. He initially creeped her out with stalking and gifts. One night he followed her to the forest and saw her fighting monsters. Later, their village was attacked by goblins. Olhyde worried about Irina's safety. Ardy quickly found her, saved her, and defeated the goblins with his demon eyes. Irina, a socially awkward child, hated people throughout her short life. Ardy understood her and wanted to be her friend. After much thought, Irina accepted Ardy's friendship. Years later, as a teenager, Ardy woke one morning to find Irina sleeping nearby. He threw a tantrum, but Irina suggested they enroll in the Academy of Magic together. On their entrance exam day, Ardy and Irina met Headmaster Gold, who praised their magical abilities. Ardy scored perfectly in ancient arts, impressing the headmaster. They explored their new school and enjoyed meeting their classmates. However, a bully named Elrado Spencer picked on a succubus girl. Ardy and Irina intervened, standing up for Ginny and confronting Elrado. Ardy steps in and orders Elrado to stop his bullying. Elrado disrespects Ardy and his origins, but before the situation escalates, Lady Olivia, an old friend of Varvatos and their homeroom teacher, intervenes. Ardy nearly reveals his secret identity as the reborn demon lord Varvatos, but remains silent and listens to Olivia. Olivia tells the boys to settle their dispute in a duel. The class excitedly moves outside to watch Ardy and Elrado fight. Ardy promises to hold back, but Elrado summons thousands of fireballs, forcing Ardy to use a forbidden spell that combines multiple elements. Olivia, noticing this unusual skill for a first year, watches as Ardy defeats Elrado within minutes. Irina quickly rushes over to congratulate her friend. Ginny also thanks Ardy for saving her from the bully. Olivia claps a little and challenges Ardy on the type of spell he used back in the fight. She lets him know that although she still can't figure out why he used such a spell, she would stop at nothing to figure out who he is. Olivia divides the class into teams of 3 for a field assignment. Everyone wants to be in Ardy's team, but he chooses Ginny and Irina. Olivia leads the class into a tunnel network to hunt a level B+ monster, the Black Wolf. Ardy's team finds and defeats the wolf quickly, leaving Ginny upset for not contributing. Ardy offers to teach her, and Ginny shyly accepts. Ardy teaches Ginny spells, but she struggles. He encourages her not to give up and creates a new spell, Script Magic, explaining the complex process. Ginny succeeds with the spell, and the girls, overjoyed, carry Ardy right into a trapdoor. A trap sends them falling into a cave filled with minotaurs. Ardy protects the girls and defeats the attacking minotaurs. He then encourages Ginny to try taking one down herself. Initially hesitant, Ginny gathers her courage and defeats a minotaur, saving her friends. After the test, Irina's team passes. Elrado tries bullying Ginny again but gets punched. Olivia dismisses the call and calls Ardy back for a chat. Days later, Headmaster Gold asks Ardy to fight in the upcoming battle event to impress the Queen and secure school funding. Ardy, upon hearing his plan, humbly declines the headmaster's offer and refuses to be used by his school. He says something that catches Olivia's attention, who is present there with them. She walks closer to him and begins to suspect Ardy could be Varvatos' incarnation. Ardy asks the headmaster to give him more time to think about it and then leaves shortly. Ardy encounters Ginny in the hallway, who asks him out. Despite initial hesitation, he accepts upon seeing her smile. Irina interrupts and asks to join their date. Ginny agrees, expressing her willingness to share Artie. Artie watches surprised as the girls discuss this among themselves. A few hours later, the girls dress up to impress Artie. They must meet outside the school and transport to a theater. After complimenting each other's outfits, they watch the play. Artie is disgusted by the poor recreation of his past life. When Ginny gets scared and leans into Artie, Irina does the same. Artie struggles with their closeness but maintains his composure and continues watching the play. During the play, Artie notices a significant flaw but survives the performance. Outside, the girls argue over where to go next. Artie lets Ginny choose a restaurant. As they walk, they overhear masked men plotting the attack to the Queen during the battle event. Artie stops to listen to every detail. When they're done, they move further into the alleyway, and Artie follows them with his ladies. The intruders open a manhole in the ground and get down to the sewers under the city. Artie and the ladies follow them and find them getting ready to activate their magic circle. Just then, one of the guys finds Artie and the ladies. They corner the three kids and threaten to end them if they don't surrender. When Artie refuses to cave to their threats, they decide to burn him. Artie, however, smiles and counters their attack. The entire rebel group is shocked at his prowess. Nevertheless, they refuse to back down. Artie amps up his spell and takes out all except one of them for interrogation. The last one remaining transforms himself into a winged goblin, blasts a hole in the ceiling, and flies out. Artie activates his levitation spell and follows the goblin outside the sewers. The goblin holds a child hostage and causes panic in the town. However, Artie calms the people down and urges them to trust him. After calming the hostage, Artie frees her and defeats the goblin. The people praise his strength. The next day, Artie and the girls are summoned by the Queen. She recognizes Irina and asks Artie for his desired reward. He refuses marriage and promotion, instead requesting increased school funding. The Queen agrees and also promotes Irina. Artie is surprised but accepts the Queen's grace. Meanwhile, the masked men continue cooking up plans to take down the Queen at the event. This time, they recognize Artie's strength and promise to take him down alongside the Queen. The following day, Artie gets asked out by a female student during lunch break. He quickly rejects her and asks her to be his friend instead. The girl doesn't take this well and tries seducing him, eventually trapping him. Thankfully, Irina arrives just in time to chase her away and save her sweetheart from the trap. Artie walks over to thank her for helping him out, but Irina just walks away angrily. Elsewhere, Professor Jessica meets with Olivia and the headmaster, only to find out that the star of their school, Artie, isn't willing to participate in the upcoming battle event. Headmaster Gold explains further that he plans to promote Artie to be an instructor in the school. However, he fears that the nobles may oppose this decision and insists that Artie must fight in the tournament if he wants his plan to come to fruition. Jessica promises to do something about it. By nightfall, Ginny visits Artie in a seductive dress, trying to make out with him. Artie refuses, but Ginny persists. Meanwhile, Irina, feeling guilty, decides to apologize to Artie. She changes into a seductive nightie and heads to his room as well, only to find Ginny on top of him, about to kiss him. Upon seeing this, Irina freezes on the spot and begins trashing Andy's room. Ginny tells her to compose herself and reminds her that she's not the only one seeking what's inside Artie's pants. Irina keeps on throwing a tantrum, and Ginny giggles a little bit at Irina's jealousy. Irina gets even more aggressive and challenges Ginny to a duel to settle their banter. The winner gets to keep Artie, and the loser has to stroll around the street with nothing on. Artie demands the girls apologize to each other. As they do, Jessica enters and reveals the headmaster's plan to appoint Artie as an instructor. Since Artie won't participate in the tournament, the girls must enter as his students and prove his leadership skills. The girls initially refuse, but Jessica manipulates them into signing up. The next day, the battle event begins with Olhyde and Artie's parents as commentators. Irina, nervously in the dressing room, steps into the arena with pride. Seeing Artie in the crowd, she gains a burst of power and knocks out her opponent with one spell. Artie, though disappointed, keeps his composure. Irina and Ginny advance to the finals, defeating all opponents. As they face off, masked men in the crowd transform into winged goblins, causing chaos as everyone flees. Professor Jessica asks Artie and Olivia to chase the goblins while she stays with the girls. Olhyde helps the girls, but is attacked by Jessica, who reveals her true allegiance. She knocks out Ginny, captures Irina, and flies away with her demon wings. Olhyde wakes up on a bed at the nurse's office, surrounded by Artie, his parents, and a few other officials. When asked about his daughter's capture, Olhyde tells them that the Frenzy King of Dragons, previously undercover as Jessica Lizer, knocked him out and abducted his daughter. Upon hearing this, Headmaster Gold expresses his shock and asks Olhyde how Lizer is still alive. Artie cuts in and promises to rescue Irina as quickly as possible. Later on, as Artie prepares to find Lizer's hideout, Jack advises Olhyde to tell Artie the truth about Irina's true nature. However, Olhyde fears that Artie may refuse to save his daughter if he does. He recalls how happy his daughter used to be whenever Artie was around and wouldn't want to destroy that for the world. Irina wakes up at Lizer's hideout, bound in magical cuffs and trapped in a transparent magical cave with Lizer and her dragons right in front of her. Irina asks Lizer why she wishes to use her true nature so badly. Lizer summons a demon's apparition and tells Irina she plans on using her true monstrous nature to unlock the seal Varvatos placed on the demon several millennia ago. Irina tells her not to worry much about her plans as Artie would be there to save her in due time. Lizer, however, remains unfazed, still seeing Artie as a normal human being. After getting into his full armor, Artie heads out to find Irina. Before he leaves, Ginny catches up to him and begs him to bring back her dear friend. Artie smiles and promises to bring Irina back before dinner time, flying away to Lizer's hideout. Back at the hideout, one of the demons is about to take over Irina's body when suddenly Artie arrives in time and destroys it. This pisses Lizer off, and she orders her demons to take Artie out. Artie, however, summons a 9-cast spell and takes down all of Lizer's dragons. Lizer appreciates his display of power and powers herself up to face her strong opponent. After saving Irina from her chains, Artie finds out about her true nature from Lizer. Although Irina expects Artie to react strongly to this revelation, he keeps his resolve to save her from Lizer. This pisses Lizer off even more, and she attacks them. Artie keeps his composure and knocks her down with his spear. After taking the first hit, Lizer decides to transform into a full dragon. She unleashes her full magic powers and throws a damage-rich attack at Artie. Artie blocks the attack totally and summons the spirit of his sword, Lydia. He fuses with Lydia for a short time and regains the form he had in his former life. Overwhelmed by the immense power in front of her, Lizer begins to fear for her life. Artie displays tremendous fighting prowess and keeps up with Lizer's fighting style. However, Lizer gets too fast for him and knocks him out in midair. Just as he's about to give up, Irina screams out his name and brings him back to life. Artie releases his limiters and activates Phase 2 of his powers. This time, Artie analyzes his environment and controls it to help him take down the dragon right in front of him. Lizer, furious, launches a final attack. Artie uses Alt Ultimatum 0, destroying Lizer. He restores Lydia to his soul and returns to normal. Irina thanks him, acknowledging his power, and vows to become stronger, to stand beside him as an equal. They return home. Sylphie Marvin, another one of Varvatos' friends and sister of Lydia, Artie's sword, finally ends her 3-year training in a cave. What she didn't know was that the time flows differently in that cave, and while she thinks only 3 years have passed, it turns out Sylphie had been in the cave for a hoppin' 3,000 years. She gets out and returns to the village, receiving the shock of her life when she sees so much development in the streets. Rushing to an alleyway to get a grip on herself, she finds a masked man waiting for her. He breaks the news that she's been in the cave for 3,000 years. The man reveals himself as one of the servants of the demon lord Varvatos and tells Sylphie that her sister Lydia is now part of Ard Meteor, Varvatos' reincarnation. Sylphie falls into despair but begins to plan her next move. Meanwhile, Headmaster Gold meets with Artie, Ginny, and Irina, asking them to star in an upcoming play for the school festival to raise funds. He also shares a threatening letter from a rebel group aiming to stop the festival. Artie and the girls promise to help eliminate the threat. The headmaster suggests they seek Olivia's help if needed. In class, Sylphie bursts in, calling Artie the reincarnated demon lord Varvatos. Irina shushes her, and Lady Olivia suggests a duel. Artie holds back but eventually crushes Sylphie. Refusing defeat, Sylphie summons her original sword, poisoning the arena with its magical powers. As things get out of hand, Lady Olivia calls Sylphie to order, and Irina steps in, scolding Sylphie for her carelessness. Sylphie suddenly gets remorseful and apologizes. After the duel, everyone returns to class. Artie presents a tale of the demon lord and realizes one student is missing. They overhear Sylphie shouting outside and find students from the nobility making fun of her. Irina puts the nobles in their place, and the class votes for actors for the play, with Artie taking out the title of the demon lord. Ginny comes up with a maid outfit dress-up idea for the festival. Sylphie throws a tantrum about it, unaware that the servant she had met earlier is watching her, laughing maniacally as he waits for her reaction to the truth about Varvatos and her sister. After class, Artie and his classmates visit the town stalls for treats. Sylphie bullies a poor stall owner, but Artie, Irina, and Lady Olivia intervene. Olivia tells them about an ancient holy sword hidden inside a weird tree and announces she'll be participating in the Sword King tournament alongside Artie. Despite his reluctance, Artie joins the fight after Olivia threatens to do something he'll hate if he doesn't. Returning to the classroom, Ard finds Sylphie beating up a groper. He intervenes and stops the fight. Once the hubbub is settled, Artie checks out his female classmates, all fully dressed in their maid costumes. The maids offer themselves to Artie for tasting, quote-unquote, leaving him fully embarrassed. Irina arrives and stops the ladies from harassing Artie. They ask her to wear a maid uniform and she complies, claiming Artie for herself. The girls protest and argue. Amidst the chaos, an announcement reveals that the winner of the 100th anniversary sword fight will receive a replica of the holy sword of Vald Galgulus. Irina asks Artie if he'll join, and when he confirms, Ginny decides to enter as well, leading to another argument. The following day, everyone, students and commoners alike, gather around the arena stage to witness the first match of the sword fight between Irina and her opponent. The match lasts only minutes, and Irina comes off victorious. When it's Artie's turn to fight, his enemy forfeits the match after seeing his strength. Some hours pass, and it's Ginny's turn to fight. Her opponent overpowers her in the first half of the fight. However, Artie gets up from his seat and encourages her to fight. Ginny musters up enough courage and takes down her enemy almost instantly. After the fight, Ginny invites Artie to the Mr. and Miss Beauty contest. Artie, on patrol, follows her and finds Elrado, now overweight. Surprised, Artie asked about his well-being. Elrado explains his past behavior, attributing it to his father's influence, and shares that he's changed after Artie's intervention. Meanwhile, Ginny takes the stage to present herself. After his story, Elrado leaves for his dorm. After the presentations, Artie and Ginny win the title of the most attractive people there. This boosts Ginny's confidence in herself, and they return to the class where they all join the other students to eat. Upon getting back to their classroom, Irina finds the trophy and gets jealous of Ginny and Artie, stomping away. Artie gets to fight his homeroom teacher, Olivia. Olivia refuses to hold back and fights her student with all her strength. Artie lets her get under his skin and uses a forbidden spell to send Olivia several hundred feet into the air and away from the arena. This means Olivia forfeits the match and Artie is disqualified, with nobody winning. Irina and Ginny go next. As expected, the duo argues about the winner getting Artie, and Ginny ends up losing after the fight. They all get back to their dorm with the servants still watching from the shadows. The students prepare for their stage play. Irina gets nervous, but Artie calms her down. The play begins and everyone enjoys it except Artie, who feels embarrassed reenacting his past battles. As the audience cheers, Artie recalls his actual battle with his arch-enemy, Avia Desert. In the flashback, Sylphie walks over to Varvatos, dejected and pressed over her incessant failures. According to her, she's just trying to help her big sister. Varvatos pities her and gives her the chance to do what she wants on the battlefield, taking responsibility for her actions. The battle ensues the following day, but it only lasts seconds as Avia and his men all fall into the trap Sylphie laid on the battlefield the night before. Avia and his men are slaughtered in a few seconds, and Varvatos is victorious. The only issue now is that Sylphie randomly placed the traps all over the battlefield with no idea where each trap is, injuring her own men. This annoys Varvatos, and he punishes her for it. By evening time, Sylphie cries to her elder sister for being punished so badly, even after winning the war. As they walk back home, Lydia steps in and bails her sister out of Varvatos' punishment. The flashback ends there, and Artie's team finishes the play, leaving smiles on their audience's faces as they wave their audience farewell. Artie and his people notice that Sylphie is gone. They check the audience and find her running away after someone similar to Lydia. Unfortunately, that was just a random person. After the whole thing, Ginny and Artie both wait for Sylphie to show up so they can go out, but it seems she's taken too long. Ginny teases Artie and tells him she could be planning a confession to him. At that instant, Sylphie approaches them calmly and promises to win her next match. In the next match, Sylphie faces Irina and wins in 2 seconds by teleporting and knocking her out. Artie notes something odd about Sylphie's behavior. Later, Artie finds Sylphie with the evolved Galgulus near a tree. She intends to destroy him, releasing the sword's power. Artie senses danger but tries to reason with Sylphie. Nevertheless, Sylphie summons her own holy sword and begins to fight Artie. Artie refuses to harm her as he can see her eyes have a different color. The pesky servant who's always watching them laughs out loud as he waits for the unexpected to happen. It's then revealed that the servant found Sylphie earlier that day and showed her the truth about Varvatos and his sister, using her understandable rage to control her mind and command her to attack Artie. Artie is struck by Sylphie but transforms into his former self to fight back. Irina and Ginny join in the battle. As Sylphie raises her sword to finish Artie, her sister's spirit emerges from Artie's body, telling her to stop. The servant controlling Sylphie attacks Artie, but Artie cuts off one of his hands and finishes him off with Sylphie's holy sword. After taking care of the intruder, Lydia's apparition comes out of Artie's body and comforts her sad sister. Some days after the sword tournament, Artie's class goes on a field trip. While in transit, Artie spectates as Irina and Ginny play a game of cards. As usual, Irina wins the game and Ginny loses. Ginny takes her loss out on the poor cards in her hands. Meanwhile, Artie picks up the cards and stares at them for a while, wondering why his people's bodily features are so exaggerated there. As the trio have fun, they continue their journey. Something out of the ordinary happens. Time stops, and Artie, alongside his two sidekicks, Irina and Ginny, are transported to another dimension. There they meet someone who calls himself the Creator. Artie keeps his cool and demands an explanation. The Creator tells them he summoned them to his plane to help him with something. He explains the concept of time, past, present, and future. And although the past is supposed to be the past, there's someone, a being, who wishes to change what happened 3,000 years ago. If successful, he'll tear the thin fabric of space and time, which could cause a butterfly effect that could ruin the entire world. Artie and his ladies are to go back in time and eliminate that being before he's successful. The Creator transports Artie and his girls into the demon world 3,000 years ago. They notice two moons and realize they're in the era when Artie's past self was king. To eliminate that being, they need to meet with Artie's past self. Hearing a scream, they find a lady running from a giant scorpion. Artie crushes the scorpion and saves the lady. Minutes later, Olivia arrives and thanks them for helping her mate. Suspicious of their speech, she tries to put them to sleep, but Artie stays awake. She takes them to town where Irina and Ginny are shocked by its ancient appearance. Olivia explains Artie's history and tries to recruit him. Artie agrees on two conditions. Irina and Ginny join, and they enlist under Lady Verda. Olivia, surprised, agrees and takes them to Verda's lair. On getting there, Artie and the girls wait silently for the crazy scientist Verda to show up. Seconds later, Verda blows up her own house and presents herself to the girls as Verda, the mad scientist. The ladies bring out their playing cards from their era and are surprised to see a different Verda there. Verda reconstructs her house with magic and invites her visitors in. Artie tells her the truth about where they came from. Verda bursts with excitement and happily takes them all in. Sylphie breaks down the door and fights Verda. Lydia arrives acting rudely and bullying Verda. She then tries to woo Ginny, but Artie intervenes. Annoyed, Lydia challenges Artie to a duel. He accepts, and they prepare for one-on-one combat outside Verda's house. When the fight begins, Lydia beats the living hell out of Artie. However, Artie muscles up and keeps fighting her until they are both tired by evening time. Lydia confesses to needing Artie's power. Artie turns back and asks if she could help them get an audience with the Demon Lord. Lydia, however, tells him they have to gain Varvatos' trust before he can agree to see them. By nightfall, Artie stands on a balcony thinking while Lydia harasses Ginny in the bathhouse. Latima, a maid, introduces herself to Artie and tells him to make himself at home. Artie agrees and overhears Lydia's harassment. Soon, Artie and his ladies join Lydia and Varvatos' army at their base, preparing for war against Irelia. Artie shares Lydia and Verda's past victories with the ladies. As the battle begins, Irina and Ginny help with the supplies. Meanwhile, an enemy faction led by Commander Bulgam attacks their supply camp. Upon hearing this, Lydia halts her troops and rushes back to defend the supply camp. In the meantime, Artie takes up the reins in the supply camp and attacks the commander head-on. Within seconds, he takes down Bulgam and saves the camp. Lydia and Sylphie arrive moments later and are shocked to find the great commander lying on the ground, defeated. Lydia is very proud of Artie and his girls and promises to reward them by setting up a meeting with Varvatos the very next day. Lydia takes Artie and the ladies to the Demon Lord Varvatos' castle. They are attacked by Sir Alvarto, whom Artie recognizes. The real Demon Lord Varvatos approaches and Ginny and Irina are smitten by his charm. Artie, jealous of his past self, keeps his secret and wonders about his past life. Varvatos leads Artie and the girls to the throne room to listen to whatever they have to say. Irina and Ginny begin spouting some nonsense from their era. They get the shock of their life when Varvatos refuses to answer to the name Demon Lord. Artie notices this and wonders why his former self doesn't recognize himself as the Demon Lord. Is there an imposter? Artie's suspicions are confirmed when Varvatos reveals the existence of someone claiming to be the Demon Lord. After meeting the king, Artie and his girls return to Verda's villa. Verda explains that the person claiming to be the demon lord might be the one trying to alter history. Andy recalls the creator's warning. Verda mentions failed negotiations with the imposter. Irina suggests explaining the threat to the Demon King. However, Artie fears that Varvatos may not trust them well enough to believe them. Lydia shows up at that instant and invites Artie to battle. Artie immediately accepts her request and follows her and the army to their next battle. On their way, Artie finds out that their next opponent is the Cursed King, Archmage Mevilas. That sends shivers down Artie's spine as he remembers the horrid battles that he fought with the accursed king. Artie's army faces skeletons, which he defeats in one blow. They enter Mevilas's burning kingdom. Mevilas's head flies out of a door, and the imposter Demon King appears, introducing himself to Artie before leaving. After encountering the imposter, Lydia, Artie, and his team return to their land and host a meeting. Varvatos declares war on the imposter, planning an all-out attack. A general expresses concern about leaving their kingdom defenseless. Varvatos assures them he has a plan. Artie reminds them of the imposter's claimed immortality, but Varvatos says he has a plan for that too. After the meeting, Artie returns to his room and talks with Latima. As he reflects, the demon lord imposter, Meteor from another dimension, appears, revealing he time-traveled to save Lydia. He plans to defeat his past self to prevent Lydia's death. Artie still can't get the logic behind his thoughts. Why is he fighting the current Varvatos if he's trying to save Lydia? The imposter tells him the self-proclaimed creator ordered him to destroy the world to save Lydia. After hearing all he has to say, Artie tells him a little bit about his own battle with Lydia. This frustrates the imposter a bit, and he asks Artie to join his team since they both plan on saving Lydia. Working together would only bring them towards their goal. Artie pulls out his hand to join forces with the imposter. However, he hears a voice in his head which orders him to stop, so he pulls back. The imposter gives him time to think about it and leaves the room. Artie takes a walk with Latima and asks her what she would do if she were in a situation similar. Latima tells him she'll pick the lovely and courageous Lydia over anybody else. Artie thanks her for the advice and joins the others at the lunch table. Lydia notices the solemn look on Artie's face, so she decides to suspend lunch and take him out to enjoy himself. Artie enjoys a heartfelt lunch outside and watches Lydia try to get the women to sleep with her. When he's fed up with her nonsense, he insults and punches her. After a few punches, Lydia finally asks Artie what's bothering him. Artie refuses to tell her anything, so she decides to show him something. Lydia takes Artie to a haunted ruin. As soon as they get there, ghosts begin to appear from the ground and surround Lydia. She tells Artie that she helped in the elimination of the innocent demons in the area just so they could pave the way to the king's castle. She's not sane and doesn't try to hide it. If Artie wants to give her a painful death, she'll gladly accept it. After their meeting, Lydia gets back home to meet the worried Irina and Ginny. She gives them some jewelry for worrying about her and plumps up their faces. Artie also shows up to continue their night in peace. The following day, Verda and her forces fight a horde of monsters in the wastelands. Everyone showcases their magical prowess and takes down another monster present on the battlefield. By nightfall, the imposter meets with Artie to hear his answer to their discussion. Artie refuses to join forces and gets the imposter pissed. He immediately gets into his battle stance to fight Artie. After the first few minutes of fighting, the imposter appreciates his strength and prepares himself for a showdown. In the castle, Irina and Ginny grumble about being excluded from the crucial battle. Irina is disheartened, but she's encouraged not to abandon their lord. Irina suddenly finds new energy and laughs at Ginny's persistent nagging. Latima appears, relaying Artie's important news. He wants them to infiltrate the imposter's castle and destroy the source of his immortality. The imposter achieved this by sealing his soul in a crystal, making his body the only part that can be destroyed. Secretly destroying the crystal will make him mortal. Irina grows fearful upon learning the mission's danger, but Ginny boosts her spirits. As they prepare to leave, the enemies ambush them. Latima protects them, urging them onward. Meanwhile, Varvatos' army battles monsters on the front lines. Upon reaching the castle, Ginny and Irina fall into Latima's trap. She's been working with the enemy secretly. Artie watches through an orb as they're tied to a cross. The imposter claims he means them no harm and tries to convince Artie to protect Lydia. The two confront Latima, who admits she's used them to manipulate Artie. Ginny vows to escape, and together they struggle to free themselves. Latima summons demons to attack them, but Lydia arrives just in time to stop them. Latima reveals the imposter's plan to ruin the world to save Lydia. Refusing this, Lydia destroys the demons and accepts her fate. She smashes the crystal, ending the imposter's immortality. Artie tries to reason with the imposter, but he refuses to forgive himself. They fight, and Artie ultimately defeats him. As the imposter dies, Irina and Ginny begin to return to their time. Lydia asks about the future. She is reassured that her sacrifice wasn't in vain. She hugs the two girls and sends a final message to Artie. Back in their time, the three wake up and enjoy their time together. Ginny relays Lydia's message to Artie, making him smile. In the end, Artie says his final goodbye to Lydia's apparition.